I got a call from my brother, the usual thing. We were partners in a small construction business that we started 10 years ago. John and I ran crews and worked with clients. I also handled the financial side with the help of John's wife, Mary. We are both married and have 4 children each. My wife's name is Kelly. John and I like to compete with each other in almost everything, but we were much closer than most brothers. We had every right to be. Hey John, what's up? You want me to come down and show you which end of the hammer to hold on to? I waited for the inevitable answer, but all that followed was a long pause. Are you there, John? Michael, are you alone? I had very bad news. Hearing the seriousness in John's voice, I stopped smiling into the phone and asked, "What's wrong, John?" I just saw Kelly go into the motel room. Worse than worse? She went into the room with Matt Rogers, and they were making out when they went in. Where are you? I'm across the street fixing the roof of the hardware store. I need to go inside and get something. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Don't let them leave the room. I left the office immediately. Mary asked me what was wrong. She had seen that look on my face before in high school. If John and I hadn't been outnumbered and the other guys hadn't started the fight first, John and I would have gotten jail time. I went home, got my dad's gun, and drove quickly to the motel. John stood leaning against the wall, smoking a cigarette, holding a hammer in his left hand. Are they in there? I asked, nodding toward the door next to him. Yeah. Here's the key card I got from the clerk at the front desk. $200 and no calls to the police until you leave. You think that'll be enough? I told him how I'd use that hammer if the police interrupted before he was done. He knows who I am. He certainly believed me. Are you sure it's Kelly and Matt? Her car is in the back next to his car. Good. Go back to work. I'll take it from here. John took a drag on his cigarette and extinguished it with his boot. He nodded to me and took his time walking back across the street to work. I pressed my ear to the door and heard a man and a woman moaning loudly inside. I put the key card to the lock, it glowed green, and unlocked the door. As I opened the door slightly, I saw that it was chain-locked. I stepped back, holding the door with my foot, and kicked the door with my whole body. The hinge of the chain ripped from the frame, and the door flew open with a bang. I stepped into the room and locked the door. Kelly was sitting on top of Matt. Both froze as the door swung open. Kelly covered her breasts automatically when I came into their field of vision. Kelly screamed. Matt saw it was me, and there was anger on his face. Matt started to push Kelly away but stopped when I put the barrel of the gun to his forehead. Kelly whimpered. I pulled 2 thick plastic ties out of my pocket and held them out to Kelly, who was still sitting on top of Matt. Tie his hands and feet. Go! I won't let you tie me up. I stabbed him with the barrel of my gun in his left eyebrow, the skin burst, and blood immediately flooded Matt's eye. I'm not in the mood for a discussion. When the barrel rested against his temple, Matt folded his hands together in front of him and Kelly tightened the tie on his wrists. Then she tightened Matt's ankles. When she was done, I slipped my gun into my belt holster, grabbed the ties on Matt's ankles, and pulled as hard as I could. The ties dug into Matt's skin. Then, putting my knee on Matt's chest, I tightened his wrists as tightly as I could. Matt's legs and arms were already red from lack of circulation. I took the table in the room and placed it next to the bed, pointing to the edge of the bed. I looked at Kelly and said, "Sit down." Kelly sat naked on the edge of the bed, resting her hands on the table. I grabbed a chair and sat across from Kelly. Matt was lying on the bed behind her. I stared at Kelly until she finally spoke. "I'm sorry. It was a mistake." I sat in silence, looking at her expressionless. "I love you." "I don't know why I did it," she said. "He seduced me," Matt spoke up from the bed. "You loved it." You loved having cakes with me. This has been going on for the last year." Kelly cried, hiding her face in her palms. "What did I tell you before we got married? Do you love me? What did I warn you about? You said I should be faithful. If you married me, you must always remain faithful, and I will always be faithful to you." Kelly was sobbing now. How many times have you heard our family say, "Once an O'Connor, always an O'Connor"? It's the first toast at every family reunion. You know that. My brother and I were raised by our uncle, my father's brother. You know we never talk about my mother or my mother's family. Yes. Has anyone ever told you why? Only that your mother and father had a fight before they went to heaven. That's another way of putting it. Matt snapped out of bed. My father came home and found my mother in room with Matt's uncle, his father's brother. My father pulled the trigger twice where he found them. Kelly looked stunned. Then my father went to Matt's grandparents and the same thing with them. My father then went to work for Matt's father and dealt with him in a similar manner. My father was on his way to Matt's house when the police caught up with him. It was his last act, trying to break into the house to pull the trigger on Matt and his mother. Now do you understand why Matt tried so hard to seduce you? Why did he want you so much? No, 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 Kelly cried softly. It was a chance, she seemed to repeat to herself to make the realization go away. Most girls in this state wouldn't even look at John or me. We have a past. We fought a lot because we didn't want to apologize for what our father did. Being a local girl, Mary knew exactly what she was getting herself into when she married John. I think marrying an outsider was a mistake. I didn't want to tell you what happened. I wasn't ashamed of what my father had done, but I wanted to put the past behind me. And that's what we came to. Matt, it is. Your wife and I are the same as my uncle and your mother. Why did your father do this to my father? For some girl? I waited patiently until Matt got tired of talking. I said quietly to Kelly, now you know the whole story. That's why my uncle raised me and my brother. I didn't know. You wouldn't need to know to stay faithful. I warned you. Then I pulled out my gun and put it in front of me on the table between me and Kelly. So you have 4 options, Kelly. You can refuse to take the gun. Then I'll take it and do it right to your head and then to Matt. I'll go to jail for a long time and my brother will raise the kids. You will no longer be in this world and your family will never see our children again. Children will be raised to hate any mention of you. Kelly looked straight into my face with wide eyes. You can take this tool and stick it to my head and press on this thing. Then my brother will do the same to you on the spot, and our children will be raised by someone else. Matt will be alive, and you and I will not be alive. Your family will never see our children again, and our children will hate you. Matt started screaming, "Take it! Push it! Put a bullet in him!" You could say he broke into the room and I knocked the gun out of him. It was all in self-defense. I love you, Kelly. I'll marry you as soon as this is over. I love you, Kelly. Kelly stood up and aimed her muzzle at Matt, which silenced him. She looked at Matt and said in a soft voice, "Michael, I love you. Tell the kids that I love them. Please go away. I don't want you involved in this." As I was getting into my truck, I heard 6 shots. My conclusion to this story and advice to the author. Seek support. In the aftermath of such a traumatic event, it's crucial for Michael to seek emotional support. Whether through close friends, family, or professional counseling, he needs a space to process the complex emotions and grief. Reflection. Take time for self-reflection. Understand the impact of the choices made and how they align with personal values. Use this experience as an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. Parental responsibilities. With the loss of Kelly, Michael now faces the responsibility of being a sole parent to their children. Prioritize their well-being, emotional support, and open communication to help them navigate the challenging road ahead. Closure. Seek closure in healthy ways. Whether through memorializing Kelly, connecting with their families, or finding a meaningful way to remember the past, Michael can pave the way for healing. Legal implications. Given the involvement of firearms and the nature of the incident, Michael should be prepared for potential legal consequences. Consult legal advice to understand and address any legal ramifications. Remember, these suggestions are crafted within the context of the story and its characters. The ultimate decisions for Michael's path forward lie with the author's creative direction.